Today I'm hanging out with my good friend, Jeff Latham. He is a real estate guy, an investor, a real estate developer, an awesome husband, an amazing father, and he's freaking hard to kill. And Jeff, what I wanted to go through with you today, and we've been friends a long time, walk me through that waterfront development that you guys did. What made it so special? You know, like what kind of tips or tricks did you guys pull on that one? Like, tell me how that worked.
Okay, so let me back up. We were looking for properties on the river, and I just noticed these homes on the Columbia River were selling for $500,000-$600,000.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to own the Columbia River.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how, but as things went on, I would just kind of see him, look for him, and I went and looked at a property. I toured a property on the Methow River, talked to the agent, and I said, "Do you have anything coming up on the Columbia?" He said, "Well, there's a gal in my office that might have one coming up, and I'll let you know." So she called me, followed up. We met her down there, looked at the property. And what I did is, I'm a real estate agent, but what I've learned is if you let the agents double end it, then they'll make sure you win the deal. So, you know, it was $1.8 million purchase price. So her side of the commission was 6%. So that's what, $60,000?
Yeah.
So she made an extra $30,000 by selling it to us. But the project itself net $2 million.
Wow.
So I'll give up $30,000 to have the upside of that.
So what was it specifically? Like how big was it? Where was it located? And what'd you guys do?
It was in Orondo.
Yeah.
It was probably 37 acres. For you math nerds out there that try and break this down, my numbers might be off.
Yeah.
But we did what's called an exempt segregation, where we broke it into 5-acre lots. They had to be 1 acre of land, and then the remainder went out into the river. They create rules for people like us because they'll never happen again. So we started out thinking we're going to get 6 lots. Well, we were able to connect with the neighbor to get an easement through, and he gave us that easement in return that we fenced his property as 20 acres for him. And that allowed us to get a 7th lot. So we sold 7 lots effectively. Lots 1, 2, 3, and 4 went for 1, 2, and 3 went for $675. 4 went for $650. 5 and 6 went for $660, and then I kept lot 7. I bought it. My profit, instead of profit, I took it and bought it at market value at $675, and it appraised at $930.
Cool. Amazing. I love
So
this
rough
story.
numbers, we bought it for $1.8 million, put $300,000 into it.
And was that
into development?
And when you say into development, was that in entitlement, engineering, permitting, or was that in site work?
Site work.
Yeah.
And getting legal lots.
Yeah.
We put in the wells, we ran the power. We did what's called an exempt segregation, where you just go out there and you draw lines on
Yeah.
the property, and we had it done in like months.
Amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, so we'll just say 1.8 plus 300,000 is what, 2.1 million. And after all the sales are complete, I mean, the math I think is like 4.3, so it would have net about 2 million.
Yeah.
And we had 4 partners,
Yeah.
right? So 2 partners at roughly 20% equity, and then myself and Chris were at 28%
Yeah.
as well. So I know these numbers aren't exactly accurate, but they're close. My profit would have been about $620,000.
Awesome.
Instead, I kept a lot, and the best lot, and it appraised at $930. And currently, I'm going to be building an ADU on it and turning it into a vacation rental.
Phenomenal. And so what I hear and what I want to rehash for people is I went looking for a deal. I started working in my network. I found a deal, and then I went, instead of doing the regular subdivision route, I found the express lane for this particular type of property in this county, and was able to get this done in 2 months versus the usual 12 to 24 months.
Yeah, which speeds up your velocity of money.
Bingo. And then it's also like without all that extra entitlement cost too. So usually you're going to spend $150,000 getting it entitled, and on the paper, like land development side, you know, the surveying and things like that, you guys spent what, $20,000?
Yeah, probably. Not much.
Yeah. Phenomenal. How long was this project start to finish?
Start to finish, I would say probably 3 months maybe. And then they were on the market, and we put them on the market in spring and sold them fast. We sold lots 1, 2, 3, and 4 within a month or 2.
Wow.
Yeah. And then we were keeping 5, 6, and 7, and we were going to build houses on them.
Yeah.
Myself and my partner, Chris. But we were starting to kind of bite off more than we can chew.
Sure.
So he sold his share, which he owned lot 6 or 5, and then him and I owned 6 together.
Yeah.
And we sold that. So I still own lot 7.
Phenomenal.
And I think, I'm going to build an ADU on it, but it's big enough. It's the best lot in the Columbia River. It has probably 1,400 feet of river frontage. And so I'll have my ADU on there, and then eventually I'll build my monster house. So then I'll have 2 rentals, 2 vacation rentals on there. That's the current strategy now. Ask me in a month or 2, and it may change.
Yeah, always. That is part of being the investor and the land developer. You're kind of like the river. You're going one direction, and then it kind of pivots and changes and goes a different direction based on whatever's happening at that moment. So I know that you guys are also working on some other projects. What are you thinking about right now? What are you working on, kind of right now, now that one's done? What looks good for you guys' future?
We got a big one going. We got some garage condos going.
Yeah.
We're not completed with it yet, so I can't share too much, but it'll yield a lot of money.
But walk me through, and we don't have to go through the details of like where it's at or dollars or things like that, but what made you decide to go do some garage condos? And then give us maybe even a general area of where it is. Why there, and why that specific product?
Well, there's a need for garage space.
Yeah.
Right? And so people tugging their boats over the mountains would rather just have their boats there, or their toys, their snowmobiles, their RVs, whatever it may be. The cost to build them is very minimal compared to how much they sell for. I think we can build them for, I'll butcher these numbers, but probably like 100. I don't even want to give you the numbers on what we can build it for, but it's going to sell for double what we invest into it.
Sure.
So let's just say we're into it $20 million after acquisition of the property, building out everything. It'll probably sell. It'll bring in about $50 million in revenue. It could be about $20 million in profit. That's speculation, but I think that's entirely possible.
And so walk us through, because we're talking about like high level crazy stuff here. How did you know there was a hole in the market?
We just hired a coach, and he said, hey, look into these. There's people doing these things.
Yeah.
And so we started looking at them, and then the opportunity just showed up. Same thing again. We just hired the agent that had the property that would work, let him double end it. That way we made sure we got it. And he's bringing us more stuff.
Phenomenal.
Just because I have a real estate license doesn't mean I need the selling office commission.
Yes.
I'd let that go, That would be, $60,000 to make. My take would be $5 million, assuming everything goes the way it's supposed to, right?
So hire a coach. Coach says, hey, this is an up and coming trend. And then how did you find the agent that had the deal?
Called the sign.
Oh, so you were driving around and you're like, that one looks good. Let's call that sign.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then how are you guys financing something like that? How's that work?
This one, we bring in investors. And so we got 2 investors, and then 3 other partners, myself, my buddy Chris, and Jason. And so it'll be, chopped 5 ways. But they're funding it all, and they're going to, share on the upside of the profit.
Perfect.
Which is way better for them than lending the money.
They basically are getting a return and then a percentage of profits?
Just profits.
Just profits. Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And that way we don't have to pay for the money, carry the note, pay the interest, or any of that stuff as well. So it's a win-win.
What investment opportunities do you see next in the future, or development opportunities? As you look into your crystal ball and you're thinking, man, late this year, next year, or even over the next few years, what do you see coming that you're starting to think about or you're starting to look at?
During the winter, people seem to get antsy or worried.
Yeah.
And that's when you can find deals. So I think, especially with this being an election year, if you will, I think there will be some good opportunities coming October and November. And that's when you can buy things at discounts or the right price. And then you sell it in the spring.
what are you going to be looking for? What should we tell our audience to be looking for?
Well, the standard thing, houses that have overgrown grass, sheets in the windows for curtains, dilapidated siding, those are always good ones. Anything that's a deal.
Yeah.
And then just, like our last class we were at, just looking at things different. Lease options, figuring out how to control property. If you own and control real estate, you're going to do very well.
So for our listeners that are subscribed, thank you for always hanging out with us. We appreciate you. But hear what Jeff said. He said, I believe there's opportunity coming because of fear in relation to the election. People get antsy during the winter, buy in the winter, sell in the spring.
Yeah, and do it ethically.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And there's always that. I mean,
you got to find out what people's needs are and then address them and make sure that you fulfill their needs. And I'm always above board with it.
100%.
Because there's people out there that are just sharks, and I protect people from the sharks.
And there's people who will take too much. I was teaching an investor class, and they said, someone asked me, and they said, what's the number one rule of investing? And someone in the audience said, don't lose money. And I said, yeah, that's part of the rules. I said, the number one rule is don't be greedy. Don't take more than you should. Solve a problem and get paid to solve the problem, but don't skin them alive. Because as you said, there are sharks out there who, they're just going to skin them alive. You should always leave some meat on the bone for the seller and for the next buyer, because that's how everyone gets the repeat customer, the people coming back, the good reputation, the word of mouth. And that's worth more than its weight in gold.
Yeah, and to echo that, or add to it, is caring about people.
Oh, amen.
Like if you actually care about people and can connect with their soul, they trust you. And it's weird, but I fall in love with my clients in a non-weird way. Like I can just see their heart, and it's like a treasure hunt. There's just a gift in everybody. I mean, I met 3 people this morning, and they're all amazing.
Yeah.
And there's gold. And one guy's a crypto guy. He's 39 years old.
Yeah.
I said, what do you do? He says, I'm semi-retired. I'm like, tell me more. Well, I trade crypto. I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to list your home, and you're going to teach me how to do crypto right, because I've lost money on it a lot. Other gal, she's awesome. She'll end up, selling this condo in Anacortes with me, and then selling their other home and buying something else. And then this other lady, she's having a hard time right now. Her grandmother just passed away, and she's afraid she's going to be homeless, and so I get to figure out how to help her as well.
Yeah.
But it's really caring about people, and I think in our industry they teach you sales scripts, neurolinguistic programming, how to get one over on people, and that just doesn't feel right. It's actually connecting, right? And so I think that's probably the most important thing, is actually giving a shit about people.
Oh, amen, brother. Amen. You did an awesome house hack, okay? And did this kind of family compound idea. Let's talk about that real quick. What'd you guys do? What made you decide to do it? Because all of a sudden my friend uproots himself and he runs away to Eastern Washington. So walk through that with us, because I think with the way society has been changing, I think with COVID, I think with politics, the economy, with work from home, this is actually possible for more people today than even when you did it. So explain to people this idea of house hacking on steroids.
Yeah. So I had a beautiful home in Conway, and I was thinking about this on the drive here.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd do it again. I loved that house. Some people say a house is not a home. I'm like, this was my home, right? I raised my children there. I love that place. But I kind of fell into it when 2020 hit and everything went crazy, and they shut down the schools and all that other stuff. I thought the market's going to collapse, and if things get crazy, I want to be away from it all.
Yeah.
And I need to ultimately, my family is the most important thing to me, and I need to protect my children. and I don't want them, dealing with some of the craziness that's going on around here. So I bought that home in 2013 for $650,000. Actually, I bought it on a contract. They carried the note. And I sold it for $1.625 million in 2020. And then myself and my two best friends bought 160 acres over the mountains. Exempt sagged that, same thing.
Yeah.
Drew lines, broke it into 7 20-acre lots. We kept 3 of them and then sold them off to four other awesome families.
Yeah.
And we built homes out there, and we lived in our RVs for a year while we were building our homes. Myself, my wife, my 3 kids, 2 dogs, and 3 cats, and a 42-foot toy hauler for a year. I wouldn't do it again. But we made it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't miserable. It was just,
It's hard.
it was pretty wild, like taking, all of your belongings from like a 3,000 square foot home and condensing into a 42-foot RV through the summer of 118 degrees, in the winter when it's below zero and you have to dig yourself out of the snow to just get to your vehicle, right? So we lived in there for a year, and we got to learn how to build homes from the ground up. And we built a pretty sweet house that's now it has a pool. Everything's dialed in. It's kind of like Mexico. We have timeshare in Mexico. We don't even need to go now because we have everything. One thing that's important is if you can source your own power, your own water, your own food, no one can really mess with you, no matter what happens to the economy or the world, right? And so sovereignty and freedom is a big, one of my main values, right? And so I have that. So no matter how crazy things get, I don't worry about it anymore. Not that I want it to happen, but I'm not concerned about it.
Yeah. Peace of mind.
My house is in order.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was funny looking back. I remember this. We're sitting up at the house. We're looking out at the Puget Sound. The sunset's going in the background. The fire's roaring right there. May or may not be enjoying wonderful ethanol products. And Jeff says, "I'm moving to Eastern Washington." I was like, "Oh, what?" And you go, "I'm going to learn how to build houses. And I'm going to build a house with my family, and my family's going to help. And it's going to make us stronger and better." And in my heart, I was like, "Oh, I miss my friend. He hasn't even left yet." But the second thing I thought was, I'm jealous. And the reason I thought that, and this is what I want people to hear. You were like, I'm going to go chase a dream and get this done. And how many people avoid chasing the dream because it's scary, doing that thing they don't know how to do? And yet, how good is it to all of a sudden, for your kids to be playing in the dirt, to be moving the 2x4s, to be out there and seeing the whole process? Because I go, "How much do you know about building homes?" "Yeah, I know enough. We'll figure it out as we go." And I was like, I love that. So as your friend, I extremely admired that. And I want people to hear that. What are you avoiding in your life? What should you be packing up, going on the adventure, making happen, sticking it out there and just trying that you're fearful of? But there's your greatness, your opportunity right on that other side. Amazing, my friend. I very much enjoyed that.
Yeah. And to add to that, we see each other more now.
Isn't that crazy? And we talk more.
Yeah. So it actually brought us closer. The other day, my boy was graduating from the Christian school that they're in, and it's a little single-wide trailer attached to a church in the middle of nowhere. But they're singing like "Jesus Loves Me" and all this other. They're coming home reciting Bible verses to me and to our family. And this church has community and it has heart, like this school where the parents look out for one another. And I wouldn't have had that in a public school, right? And so there's things I miss about my place. Yet the other side of it is there's a lot of gifts there. I
love it.
Yeah.
I want to switch gears for half a second here. Where Where do you think the real estate industry is going? Like, what are you feeling right now? I mean, change is in the air. And you've done this a long time, too.
Are you talking about the industry or the market?
The industry.
Well, there's always been an attempt to disrupt it.
Yeah.
And there's always been a fear that Zillow was going to come and take us out. I remember back in 2004 when it came out,
Yeah.
But it's a hard thing to disrupt. I know you got like the Amazons and the big companies that are trying to eliminate real estate agents, yet they're necessary. They're needed to be the glue to keep the transaction together. So I think things are going to continue. What we've done to pivot is we've become very listing centric.
Yeah.
And focus on getting more signs in the air. And that allows me to be able to continue to work from over there.
Yeah.
Right? Because I come over here, meet people, set up a group text with my awesome business partner.
Yeah.
I don't like the word assistant because it just doesn't sound right.
Yeah.
And she handles it and takes it from there. And we're able to make things happen and help people. So I don't know what's going to happen. But I don't see any big changes in the foreseeable future, especially with the MLS not adopting what everybody else is doing. That made me feel okay for all the fines that they've thrown at me.
For all the fines they've given us over the years.
The person that gets fined more than me is Jesse Lee.
I love it. Okay, let's switch gears then. As the industry, things are going to change or stay similar, change a little bit. What do you think about the real estate market? What are you feeling? What are you seeing?
Right now, it's still strong.
Yeah.
We put listings on the ground or signs on the ground and listings on the MLS, and they sell. If I had a crystal ball, I'm not really good at predicting things because I've been wrong a lot. But
like all of us.
Yeah.
We're all wrong.
No one knows what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Really. Like, I was thinking about that. No one has a clue. No one has this figured out. Life and period, right? In general. My guess would be it's going to tail off in the summer and it's going to stall out in the winter. That's what happened last year. And I believe it'll happen this year, if not worse. Not a massive decline or anything, but with, the uncertainty with the election year, I think things are going to slow down.
Yeah. I concur with your hypothesis. Like, it feels like that again. For our investors, a lot of people who listen to this, whether it's on Spotify or YouTube, they're investors. What should investors be thinking about the market or the industry as they look forward?
I think just having more than one exit strategy, right? Like if you're going to flip and you can't sell it, figure out how to hold it until spring. Make sure you buy right. Maybe look at different ways to acquire the property through creative financing. We have one we're working on right now over in Wenatchee, and the seller's going to carry it for like 6% interest. We'll put down about $110,000, and when we'll turn that house into sober housing, and then when sewer comes in the next year or two, we'll be able to get 3 more lots out of it, and then we'll sell it, and then we'll take his money that he's lending us and go apply it to another property, right?
Super creative.
Yeah, and he's on board with it. He loves it, and he doesn't trust the bank or the government.
Yeah.
So we share some values.
Yeah. We are in alignment. You're like, I see you. I feel you. Mm-hmm. You are my people.
He reloads ammo too, so we get along great.
What's the biggest mistake that you've made in real estate investing?
I think when in 2020 I had a house on the Puget Sound with a boat launch coming right out of the garage.
Oh wow. Oh, I remember this.
In Douglas Bay.
Yeah.
And I only owed like $600 on it. Yeah. And I thought the market was going to tank. And so I listed it for like $900 and then dropped the price. And then I think I finally sold it for $750. And then the feds dropped the interest rates down to 2.5%. Yeah. And that house became worth $1.5 million. That lady, and she has it on the market today for $1.325. So I think my PTSD from 2009, getting spanked, showed up, and I panic sold.
Yeah.
That was one of them.
Yeah. We've all been there. You know,
Yeah.
sold too early, bought too late, got too excited.
I bought one last year in Bothell around this time. Paid $500 for it. Probably put $200,000, $180,000 into it. Thought I could sell it for $850. Put it on the market in October, and the timing was wrong. It just sat, and then we finally sold it in December, and I lost $20,000. If I could have just stabilized that thing until February, I would have made another $150,000, $200,000.
Yeah.
Right. So I think it's taken me 22 years in this industry to figure out that the seasonality actually affects the real estate market.
Huge.
It's energy.
Yeah.
Like plants go into hibernation, animals go into hibernation, business goes into hibernation. It may be tied in with the sun, right? And then there's just less energy, so everything kind of goes dormant during the winter.
Yeah.
And then come spring, it comes back to life, and then it flourishes. So I wonder if the investing cycle works that way as well. I believe it does.
So buy when everyone's hibernating and sell when the sun is out and everything's blooming. And what's funny is that sounds simple, but just because something is simple doesn't mean it's easy. And simple also doesn't mean that it's not unbelievably effective. The hard part about real estate investing is the holding. So when we're buying something, because sometimes we pay cash, sometimes we have hard money, sometimes we have private money, sometimes we have outside investors. Well, if it's not 100% cash, someone's owed a return, and that return clock is ticking. And so it's then, and then let's say it's a flip, and as you're doing the flip, you run into another problem that delays it a month. Those delays and the trying to calculate of the time frame or timelines and that ticking clock that's happening right in front of you is what makes the simple part of real estate really hard. Because logically, it's like, you know what? I should buy late summer, early fall, in the winter, and I should sell March to June. Okay?
If you have to.
If you have to. Or just hold forever if you can. That's hard to do. And people greatly underestimate how hard it is to hit that perfectly. And how much capital and staying power you have to stay locked into the game through the winter. And when you're sitting there watching it, okay, this is a real example. You're watching it this winter, and it's ticking $15,423 a month. Click, click. And I'm like, oh my goodness, maybe we need to get rid of this. Click, click. And so it's part of it is a little bit of like knowing your numbers so well that you can push down that emotion, because it boils up. It boils up in me, at least. I mean, I don't know if it boils up in you, but you get that feeling like, I gotta get rid of this, which forces us to go a little too early. Yeah,
we lose money November through March, maybe even April. I don't think we start making money again until May. And when you have high overhead, that gets pretty stressful. Yeah, I get wound pretty tight around January.
Jeff is not the only one. We all feel the same way.
You got to keep your powder dry.
Amen.
You have to. Like being an investor, you have to have another, you don't have to, but I would recommend you have a different income that pays your bills and your lifestyle, and then your investing is for more investing.
Yeah.
It's very challenging to be an investor and have that be your sole source of income.
Because you're going to run into a problem sooner or later, and then it cuts the income stream. Like it's not a function of if, it's a function of when that problem arises.
Yeah.
If you play this game, it's not if, it's just when.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
And we've both been there many times. If you had to start all over again in your real estate career or your investing career, what would you do differently?
I would have listened to Craig Corliss.
What did Craig say?
So I started at this little shop called Town or Country Real Estate.
Yeah.
And there's there's quite a few characters, but two that stuck out in my mind.
Yeah.
There's Doug Newman, who was the top selling agent, and he was making $150,000 a year.
What year is this?
2002.
Okay.
That's a lot of money back then.
That's a lot of money.
I was 22 years old at the time. And then there's Craig Corliss, who's looking through the little nickel and the newspapers, looking at fourplexes, eightplexes, sixplexes, duplexes, and looking for those. I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, oh, buying investment properties. Well, I went and paid attention to Doug Newman. And I sat in the corner and absorbed everything he did and just soaked it up like a sponge because I wanted to be the top salesperson. And I did that. And then eventually, Doug retired, and then he had to get back into real estate. And he was smart with his money, but he was into IRAs and stuff like that. And eventually he came and worked for me again as an agent back in 2016. And Doug's a great man. Craig Corliss is probably worth 40, 50 million, and he's sitting in Florida, drinking Arnold Palmer's with probably $50,000 a month in passive income. Long answer is I would have bought more real estate. I would have paid attention to Craig Corliss better.
Buy more real estate. Let time go by. Buy real estate and wait.
You think Craig Corliss is worried about the economy?
No.
No,
Not with that level of cash flow.
No.
How can people get a hold of you, Jeff?
Social media. Follow me on Instagram, Facebook. J Lathamator is my Instagram handle. And then Facebook, I think it's just Jeff Latham.
Awesome.